Does dealing give you an advantage as a player at the poker table? Can you ever justify limping pre-flop? And what is more satisfying, a trick shot you've been working on for hours or scooping a giant pot? We get into all of that today on the show with our guest Rob Stacks. Rob, how you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. How you been?
Yeah, good, good. So we met at Mandalay Bay. You were dealing, and I was trying to vlog with a couple hundred subscribers, and you kindly said, "Hey, I'm doing that as well, and hang in there. You'll it'll keep working for you if you just stick with it." And
Right.
I sure appreciated it. It was good. So
Was that
tell
before, like about 8 months ago? Was that before the series?
it was during the series. Yeah, I stopped in
Okay.
and I think I played like a couple hours that day. It wasn't too long, but yeah, played like 3 or 4 hours
Right.
and stuff. So yeah, yeah, it was good. But yeah, I appreciated the encouragement because at that time, just getting started, I was like, man, I don't even know what I'm doing out here, but you're just like,
Yeah,
hey,
yeah,
hang with it, it'll get easier, you'll get it. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it was
Be
good.
consistent.
It
All
was
it
good.
is.
All right, so let's go to that first question. You're still dealing at Mandalay Bay. How do you feel like that impacts your game as a poker player?
Yeah, I think it helps. I definitely pick up some live reads for sure. Like in the middle of dealing, I'm typically paying attention, and I like to try and guess hands when there's big pots or when people look stressed out in the middle of a hand. I'm like, how is he in a tough spot? What does he have right here? What makes sense? And then a lot of times I'm trying to call out the hand, and sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong. But I think, yeah, dealing for, shoot, it's been since '06 for me.
Okay, wow,
So I still pay attention. It's still fun. And yeah, definitely, you see what people are still doing in the game if it's changing. I mean, I'm mostly dealing 1-2, so it
yeah,
hasn't changed that much.
yeah,
But you do see some better players nowadays, of course, even in smaller stakes. But yeah, definitely think it helps me, gives me a slight edge there.
I think it shows up in your vlogs too. Your hand reading is top notch, where you'll be like, okay, he should have a couple of these things based on what he's done, and I mean, you're not always right, but you're
Right.
super. I think your ability to condense their range and like identify what they should have is pretty spot on. So
Oh,
it
thanks,
seems
man.
it seems to help you. So
Yeah, and then kind of mixing in a little bit of new stuff because I don't really study much of the GTO kind of thing, and
mm,
I don't know. It's just I'm more old school, I guess, because I'm back in like '05, '06, and yeah, so yeah, a lot of live reads for me. Um, Not so much about hand ranges until you get up more higher, 2-5, 5-10,
yeah,
when guys are kind of doing the same. You see them all doing the same thing. The three bet, quarter pot, and then three-quarter pot. Like
right,
then they're all It's kind of like then the ranges. All right, what do they most likely have? Or probability stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the
Well,
1-2, you don't have to think about that as much. Because
right,
people aren't doing things. They're limping with a king. They're just calling with kings.
right,
You know, they won't three bet aces sometimes. They're like, so it's a lot.
yeah.
It's pretty confusing. Some people have a hard time, but pretty much just play tight.
Yeah. And I've noticed you play a lot at the South Point these days. Is that your go-to? Is that like your home turf if you're playing?
Yeah, it's kind of nice just out of convenience. I actually do enjoy the room though. It's such a better vibe sometimes than say the win. Even though I
Yeah.
love the win, but I was there, for example, last Friday, and it was just miserable. I like
At the
just
win?
not fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 I love the room and everything, but the games were just. I look around, I'm like, I see half 5-10 Bellagio players, and then there's people waiting for 10, 20, 40.
Right.
I'm like, why am I battling so hard here in this 2-5 when I
Yeah.
can? So the South Point's a mile away from the house, and they're vlogger friendly. So it's nice. The games are typically softer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just a bonus getting the free roll hours too. I'm probably going to do that this winter month.
Nice. How many do you need for that?
100 hours from December, January, February. So I had like 50 hours
Okay.
uh, right at the first or early January. So on pace to hit that pretty easily.
Nice. Yeah,
I
they
don't feel
do.
like I'm playing that much.
I feel like they have a pretty laid back environment. Lots of it seems like lots of like local retirees and stuff that are there, and then the people
Yeah,
that come in, it's at least when I've played, it's been a very relaxed environment compared to you can sit down
right.
at the win and be like, oh no, I'm gonna get crushed because you can just tell who's there,
Yeah,
like you
yeah.
said.
Just
So
feel tense and serious, and
yeah,
there. Even though you get a lot of locals, sometimes the games can be nitty, of course, when you have free roll stuff and promotions. But
yeah,
there's enough tourists to balance it out, and then a lot of the locals they like to gamble too. So I
Yep.
find myself in some pretty good games even at 10 a.m. lately. Sometimes,
Nice.
even if it's just a 2-3 game, I've been getting some action. So,
Nice. Good
yeah,
deal.
I'm like, why am I going anywhere else? And then my stats kind of showed that at the end of the year, I had the most hours and I made the most per hour there. So
Nice. So how did you? At what point did you go? Hey, I'm a dealer. I've been watching these poker vlogs or whatever. I'm going to do this myself. What made you decide to dip your toe in the water?
Well, it started with the content. All started with I was planning on breaking a Guinness World Record free throws, most free throws in 24 hours, right? So I set this up with Lifetime Fitness, and we planned it 6 months later. It was right before COVID, right? So I had been training, and I was started making videos, figuring out the whole editing process.
Yeah.
I was using Adobe on that one on the computer. So I figured out some editing, got some videos. I was training for over 4 months, and then COVID hit, right? And then I had it scheduled. It was all at Lifetime Fitness, going to be a big thing for charity.
Yeah.
Because I just wanted to get in the content world somehow. I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm like, what can I do that people are going to want to watch, right? Like,
sure.
And I was like, ooh, maybe I'll do some like cool charity events, like, and try to break all these crazy world records, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my idea.
Cool idea.
And then literally COVID hit. So what was that? April. My event was scheduled for April, and it hit in March, right? So it was kind of in limbo. We didn't know if the gym was about to shut down, and then everything shut down. So then it kind of, 2 years later, everything starts reopening. Yeah, we just never did it. So in the meantime, I was like, oh, okay, I'll do some basketball content until we get it going again, right? So that's when I started the TikTok, doing basketball tricks, and then that turned into trick shots, and then that became a thing, right? So then I figured out editing a lot better, doing more short videos. So trick shots, another year and a half later, we build up like 675,000 followers on TikTok, and then a couple videos blew up, and ESPN shared a few, so then Instagram blew up, and then Reels started over there. So I was like, oh, this trick shot could be a thing. And then you start getting people, hey, we want to, how much to make a video, and blah, blah, blah. Like, oh, you can make money off this, right? That was the whole goal, is to get into content somehow. And then, I don't know, I kind of was getting, not burnt out. I just was running out of ideas on trick shots. It's hard to come up with something every day.
Yeah.
And that's what TikTok and they require of you. Like, here, can you post every day? Just a little video. I'm like, man. And then you got to one-up yourself on top of that. So, I don't know. Trick shots, the market become huge too. There's a lot of people doing a lot of trick shots, so you're going to see a lot of the same things. And then I'm like, man, I don't know. I kind of just wanted to get into content somehow, and I knew the longer form content was really where it was at on YouTube.
Yeah.
And now that I know how to edit, and there was more poker vloggers going, my wife's like, why don't you just do the poker? Because you've been playing. I'm like, you know what? That is a lot easier to get content. I can get a long video in one poker session. So
yeah.
I was like, yeah, try it out. So that's where that started. So I kind of been taking it easy on the trick shots, doing whatever every one now and again when I get an idea for something new. And I've known Andrew actually quite a while, from 2012, 2011. That was when he was like writing about poker. So I kind of knew him. I messaged him, hey man, he gave me some pointers, some advice, and like, dude, go for it, man. So
nice.
So that started. Yeah. So from trick shots into poker, and then kind of just, I have a whole bank full of trick shots. So I'm like, how can I be different in the poker thing? Just add a trick shot at the end.
Yeah.
And that way people remember, hey, he's the guy who does trick shots. Poker blog. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I find myself looking forward to it. When it gets to the end, it's like, well, I can't click away yet. There's a trick shot coming. So yeah.
Some people probably just, hey, trick shot at 19 minutes in. Just fast forward. Or they could just go to Instagram, I guess, or TikTok.
Right.
They just want to see the trick shots. But
right.
Yeah. So that's where we're at.
So I was just watching one before we started here, and it was 4.5 hours of work for what, maybe 30 seconds of content. And was that kind of the driver of like, man, I'm putting so much into this one little clip that it's a huge commitment every day, whereas I can go put 10 hours into a table for one day, and now I've got a week's worth of content, so to speak. So
yeah, so not only the content, but then just to get back into poker and be profitable, and I'm making money at the table as well. So when I'm doing trick shots, I'm not really making anything.
Right.
So that's a lot. It is a big time commitment for some of these videos when I'm throwing cards, especially the cleanup, then just putting the clips together, going through them.
Yeah.
For 1 minute of video, it could be, like you said, if a shot takes me 3 hours, and another 2 hours of editing, and then you're making maybe a couple bucks
right.
on reels sometimes. So,
right.
I'm like, okay, I got to kind of go where the money is a little bit,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
Huh.
And not only that, like I said, it's more the I'm not that creative, honestly, when it comes to the trick shots. A lot of the guys pull ideas from each other, and then kind of see. You're like, oh, okay, now that you know what's possible. Like I would have never thought of throwing Wii discs into into the console.
Right.
And then now that I kind of like, okay, we can make this happen. I can think of other things that kind of help. But I would have never thought of that kind of stuff. And there's people though who do that, and they're like, so that we all kind of take stuff from each other and kind of make it our own.
Yeah, you've got some wild stuff. So if you're watching this and all you came for was the poker, at some point, go check out, what is it, Instagram or TikTok that they should go to? Because I was on Instagram, but yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's the same name, Watching Rob, on TikTok, Instagram. That's why I was keeping it the same, so you can kind of find it anywhere.
Nice. All right, I'll give you one more question on the trick shots, and then we'll move on from that. But so what is more satisfying? If you spend like 4 hours grinding out this trick shot, or you win a giant pot in poker, like you hit some wild hand and scoop somebody, stack somebody, what's more satisfying to you? Because either way, it takes a lot of time and work. And
yeah, probably the trick shot, honestly. Especially when you come up with an original one, that's my favorite. When I come up with one on my own,
yeah,
and nobody's seen it before, and it's taken a long time, that's satisfying. Poker, these pots are going to come and go. I don't really try to get I don't get too high anymore, and then I don't get low either when I'm running bad. So when I book, like when I started off the vlog, I booked like 16 wins straight. Some people were like, "Oh, you're sharing as the wins." I'm like, no, man, I only play once a week. I don't know. It's not that. I don't put in long sessions, so a lot of times I'll string to get all wins. And that's what happened at the beginning of the vlog. Maybe that's why I caught a little fire there at the beginning. But yeah, man, I think the trick shot, the length on that feels good.
I'm sure that's got to be satisfying after missing it so many times to finally get it. Nice. I watched, speaking of even keel, I watched you hit was it a set of jacks that you made, and he hit quad eights, I think.
Oh yeah,
fairly recent. And your reaction was just like, yeah, that's gonna happen. I thought, man, how do you just?
You know what? Yeah, I was like, man, I guess I was like, that hasn't happened since I've started vlogging over a year, But I also haven't had anybody set over set, I don't think, either, like in a whole year. So I was like, I finally get set over set, here we go. And like the funny thing was that, like, when you're trying to vlog, pick up the camera, I'm kind of looking what's going on, and then I see the turn river, and I'm like, what was that, an 8? I'm like, really? Wow. So I didn't even have time to really react. I was like, that's cool. That's all I said. I was like, that's cool. At least it was in, I guess there's a bright side to everything. At least it was in the 2-3. But of course, he was the only one who had like over 400. He had like 445. It was like mostly $300 stacks.
Right.
So
he's the only one who can do real damage.
Yeah. It was still a $1,000 pot. I mean, that was still a lot of money. Yeah.
Right.
That's a big swing on the night. And that was all my profit from the 2-5 too, or from the 3-5 rather. It broke, and then I had no hands in the 3-5, but grinded a little profit, right? And then I'm like, sweet, now I make the hand.
Yeah.
And then lose a big one. But turned out not too bad since I think I broke even on that one.
Yeah.
Night. So
I was
still, man.
Just impressed that you can just hold that, like, you just got beat by quads and just, it happens. And I think even if we have that mentality, it's hard to present something that devastating as just like, matter of fact, oh well. So
yeah, I was definitely more emotional in my younger years.
Yeah.
Embarrassingly, yeah. And if we look back, you're like, wow, I was one of those guys, when I was young. Because I just didn't have the money when I was young.
Yeah.
You get upset, competitive.
Yeah.
I think a lot of poker players are competitive in general, just playing a game. So when you can't control it sometimes, you're like, you start boiling,
Absolutely.
I think, now I'm old. I'm almost 40, so it's like, okay, get that together. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, as a dealer, it's like, poker can bring out the worst in people. Sometimes when I'm dealing, I'm like, wow, dude, you're like 60.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
How are you this upset right now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to just chill now.
And I've definitely seen people. All right, I'll ask you this, and then we'll move on to some hands. But I've I think it's really easy for people to just, it's your fault when that card shows up on the river or whatever and they get bad beat, and they're just going to try to tear you a new one because they're upset about the fact that they're losing money, really, is all they're upset about.
Yeah, they want the action, but then they're mad when they lose. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's the biggest thing.
Exactly.
How do you call with that when they have aces, but like you want them to?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Like, or how did you call with that draw? I bet this much. Well, you don't need to even help them out. Don't give them any information that you get the wrong price to continue there because you're printing the money in the long run. That's all it comes down to is when you start printing money long run, you're like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like,
right.
That's what, again, why I don't get too high on the big days and then low it all on the low days.
Yeah.
So, like, it's coming back. Did you play good? Did you get the money in good?
Yep.
That's all there is to it. So.
And I try to remind everybody that I talk to about this. I try to remind them like, hey, you need that guy to win once in a while, right? Like you need whatever his name is to come in and crush a pot once in a while and get super lucky with his trash so that he keeps coming back. If he loses every time, he's done. He's out of money and he'll never come back. So he's not chasing anything. So,
right.
Yeah. All right. Well, I tend to share a hand every time that is one that I'm not happy with. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to share one with you that I don't love. But let me get my notes here. I always tell people to not limp in live poker. Do you have the same theory? Do you tend to play that way as well?
I don't even remember the last time I limped.
Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. And
maybe if there's an under the gun limp, under the gun one, like 2 limps or something like that. And I'm on the cutoff or whatever, I might limp in, or on the button limp in. But that's just rare in 3-5 now. You can get away with that more in 1-2.
Yeah.
I guess, but in the 3-5, it's just rare that even happens. Like a couple limps ahead of you. So.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I never advocate for it, and I'm going to say that and then admit my mistake. So I'm playing in this 3-5 game, and the table's just really sticky. They're calling almost any size. I started out as a 4x open, up to 5, up to 6, up to 7, and I can't thin the field. I went as high as 9x at one point just to see how people would respond. I got it was kings or aces, and I'm like, well, if they're going to stick with everything, I might as well charge the maximum. So I just kept pushing it up, and I think I made it 45 pre-flop and still got like 3 callers. So the table just won't go away. And I get pocket 6s in middle position with 2 limpers in front of me. The reason I would raise is to try to thin the field, to try to have control of the pot post flop. There's just a bunch of reasons, right? You want to get it heads up, you want to be able to bluff. But even when I'm making these giant raises, no one's respecting them. We're going 5-6 ways to a flop, and I kind of just need the best hand to be good. I get pocket 6s in middle position, and I think, what's the point? I got to go to like 40-45 to get this heads up, to have a chance to get a heads up. And even when I do, I'm going 4 or 5 ways. So is it worth raising? And I end up just convincing myself that I'm just going to limp this one because I don't think I can get it heads up even if I try.
Right. Yeah, somewhat understandable if you think it's going to go 5 way tough to win. You're just building up a pot in case you hit the 6.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, that's kind of understandable there. Yeah, if you're in a game where you're most likely not going to win with 6s very often when you're getting 4 callers. So.
Right. Yeah. So anyway, I never advocate for limping. I did in this case. The player to my left makes it 35, and it goes call, and we end up going 6 ways to a flop. Flop is 8-4 deuce rainbow, and it checks to the pre-flop aggressor who bets 60. Then it folds around to me with pocket 6s. What do you think? 8-4 deuce rainbow. He's continuation betting 60 into, let's see, we went 35, 175.
And you're closing it, right?
Closing the action. Everyone else is folded at this point.
Yeah, you could probably PO1 depending on the player, especially. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He seems he's very capable. He's a winning player. He definitely can push around with. I think he's got a lot of like overcards and stuff, unpaired overcards when he does this, right? Mm-hmm. For the sizing. So I go ahead and make the call. Turn comes down a 10. I check to him, and he decides to check back. And then this is the point in the hand where I'm curious what you think. But river comes down a second 10. And how would you handle that spot? So we've got 175, 120. So we've got like 295 in the pot. So about $300 in the pot. And he checked the turn. The river pairs the board with the 10.
So like deuce 4, 8, 10, 10, something like that. Yeah, you could put out some sort of blocker bet there if you don't want to call like turn was 60. So yeah, you're almost 300 in the pot, right?
Yep, about 300. Yeah.
Yeah, you hate to face like $250 bet, so
right.
You could put up a smaller, kind of create your own price there on the river that you would call.
What would you go with?
You could probably go like 80, $100.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. I think I was thinking the same kind of thought. This guy's definitely capable of raising me with a bluff. So I thought I'm going to go a little on the larger side so he doesn't. Because exactly, I'm going to call. And I don't want to call a $300 bet. So can I put out like 125 so that he won't raise me, so that it'll look like I was going for value with, something, and potentially get a fold from like ace 8 maybe that slowed down or something like that. That now I'm representing the nuts and all that. So I went with 125, but I could see going a little bit smaller.
Yeah, that's probably fine too. Like 40%. That's about where you were at.
Yeah.
Isn't that like kind of too small? Might induce a raise too.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Situation either.
Yeah.
But yeah, what ended up happening on that one?
Okay, so I bet 125, and he goes deep into the tank because I'm giving him tons of unpaired overcards. He's very capable, but I thought like I can potentially fold out. What do they call this? A combo bet or whatever. You can potentially fold out better, but you can also get called by worse. And I thought maybe there's a world where he has like ace 4 and has done this, or he has just ace king or something, ace king, ace queen, lots of that. So he thinks forever and maybe 2 minutes or so, and then finally just goes, all right, I'll call you. I have ace high. Because he's talking it through, just going like, you either have the nuts or you have nothing. And I end up having neither of those. So it worked out. It worked out better than I expected. I get unexpected value from it, but
yeah, that's a good one. That's max value right there.
That's exactly what I thought. I was like, wow.
Probably he's going to check back. Cope ace high is good.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good bet. Yeah, and he's not gonna ever raise river there, because he shouldn't have many 10s, right?
Right.
Yeah. It's a tough call by him because there's not many draws that miss. Like, there's not many draws out there in the first place, right? 8-4 deuce. So yeah, it's most likely you have a set or some sort of small pair.
Right. But it's possible that I like floated something with overcards and decided to go for it. Right. But yeah, most likely I have something of value.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, the only draws are like gutter ball 6-7s and like wheels.
Yeah.
3s, ace 5s, suited, something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's all he can beat. The better hand I guess you could have got to fold was like 7s. Probably. That's possible. If you think he would isolate there after you with 7s, which is possible, I would probably. Like 3 limper.
I guess, and one of the reasons that I like your line of thinking and that I took the blocker bet or made the bet initially myself is that I am going to call, and if he decides with his 8 that I don't have a 10, and so when I check twice, and so he's going to bet like 2 to 250 with like his pseudo top pair, I'm calling it anyway, so I might as well set my price lower and try to reduce my loss if I'm going to take a loss. So I didn't expect to get value from ace high too often, so that was a kind of a nice surprise to stumble into it and be like, oh, okay, let's get some extra value here. Yeah.
I just noticed with my blocker bets, they never seem to work out. It's either I end up getting raised or I was just behind. So I'm like, okay, I need to have, I guess, I don't know if it was, I just need to have blocker bets that are also like big hands too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Say you're betting on the draw and then you bink the draw, put out a blocker bet on the river that looks like almost you want to induce.
Right.
It might, they might, like a good player would be like, hey, that's a blocker bet, so he's probably pretty weak, right?
Oh, yeah.
You need to do that with like some big hands sometimes too. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you played with that at all?
I don't know. I guess I just haven't been in that situation lately. I've been more on the larger sizings, like these polarizing size bets on the river with bluffs and big hands seem to be working out for me more lately. I never did that earlier in my career. Like I was always half pot. Like I never, like I said, that's where the studying comes into play. You see what people are doing nowadays, and like learning more about why does this size make sense. And people will call; they'll level themselves into calling with like small hands. I got a good one for us to talk about that happened the other day. But what did you want to go into another hand or?
No. I want to hear yours, but no, I've messed with, especially in position. I tend to polarize and go for the larger sizings. I read it in a book by Andrew Brokus a couple years ago, but he was just talking about the value of taking that, being able to bluff full pot, and you get to a third of the time you get to have absolute air in that situation, and 2/3 you're going to have your value, and it puts them in a miserable spot where if they never call, you just pull in their chips every time, and if they do call, they're wrong 2/3 of the time. So
it's I had to bring that into the game for sure too. As you move up like deeper stack, like I'm really comfortable now with this 300 big blind poker.
Yeah.
But like when you're playing 100 big blinds or less, like the 2-5 of Bellagio, it's a little it's a little difficult, when people are getting when they have 500 or 400 in front. It's tough to put people in tough spots. A lot of times it's like, okay, whatever you got, I'm going to rebuy 500. I don't care. But putting someone to the test for what could potentially be 1,500 or 2,000, they know they might face that on the river, and you just have to execute now. And before I would have probably scared. I just would play tight and not think it's necessary. But now it's like totally necessary, and it's like so profitable.
And is there anything more fun than putting your chips in with air, like going all in with air and then just sitting there and waiting? Like, man, nothing gives me. I told somebody, I was like, there's no greater high than putting your chips in with air and waiting for someone to make a decision.
Yeah, the heart still pounds when I'm bluffing in when I have a good hand. So if people think they have a talent me with my heart, it could be the nuts, or a bluff. I still get excited. Like I still make a hand. Cause sometimes it's so rare. When you start putting in a lot of hours, you can see how card dead you can go. Mm-hmm. And when you finally make a hand, flop a full house, flop quads, turn quads. So this hand I'll tell you about.
Okay.
I didn't vlog this session at South Point.
Okay.
But, it's a 3-5 game. I'm on the button straddle. Everybody was pretty much straddling all game.
Straddled 10. Button straddle 10.
10 on the button.
Okay.
And we're all three of us in this pot are all over 1,600.
Okay.
I think right at 1,600 a piece actually. So I'm on the button straddle with pocket sevens. It goes middle position limp, and then it was the low jack or hijack. Can't remember right now. He makes it $40. I could probably 3-bet sometimes, but I just decided to call, and that brings in the other limper.
Okay.
Because this guy was new. He was a little older. Looked like he just looked like a tighter player.
Okay.
So I'm like, I'll just take a flop here in position.
Yeah.
And so we go 3 ways, and the flop is Queen, Jack, 7, all diamonds.
Queen, Jack, 7, all diamonds. And what? Oh, okay. Your suits won't matter then. Never mind. Queen, Jack, 7, all diamonds. Okay.
I actually remember what the turn was, 7 of spades. So.
Oh, okay.
Queen, I do remember the suits. So Queen, Jack, 7, all diamonds. First player checks.
Okay.
He goes continuation 75 into 140. Right? About 140. It was 40, 3 ways, 120, and the blinds, 130. So
hijack goes
half pot.
75. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I just decided to make the call.
Okay.
A lot of hands are beating us right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, let's take a turn. Call. Next player folds, so we're going heads up. Turn is the 7 of spades. And this is when he leads out like a blocker bet. Now he goes 100.
Okay.
When he did that, I was like, ooh, it's either kind of like kings, maybe aces. It's probably not a full house. Maybe just like king, queen. But I was like, okay, so this card's a much better card for me. And I think he knows that. So normally, though, back in the day, I'd have been like, I have quads, just call, right? They're going to you want them to bet on the river or whatever. You don't want to blow them off the hand right now. But deeper stacked poker now.
Yeah, fast play.
Yeah. You want to get more money in, right? When you got a big hand. And if he has something, he's going to put more money in.
Yep.
Right? So the pot was what, 140?
His bet makes it, I believe, 380. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So 380 after his bet.
Okay.
So the pot was it was 270 when he bet 100, right? So he bet pretty small.
Okay, yep.
I'm like, oh, I like the raise here because there's not many full houses I can ever have here, right? So if he has a big hand, he's going to continue, and you want them to invest more money in because they're less likely to fold on the river when they, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You
and
want them
I
to,
I think too what something relevant here is like if you let's say he has like ace queen with the ace of diamonds, so he's got top pair with the redraw.
mm-hmm,
If you just call and the river doesn't bring in the diamonds, he's probably check folding to a bet. You know, I mean,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
I like your raise a lot. What'd you go to?
yeah, you don't want the board to get even worse. Say he has aces and the board comes a queen on the river or a jack.
Yeah,
And he's kind of like, ah, what can I beat now, right?
yeah,
So you want him to get more money in. So I put it a raise to 250.
okay,
And I thought it would kind of look like, since he made a blocker bet, he would be like, wow, maybe I look kind of weak there. So maybe he's raising, right? But he's raising small. So maybe he's weak, right? It's just kind of the
okay,
leveling.
yeah,
Forth, what I was kind of thinking that was going through my head. So he ends up making the call, and I'm like, ooh, he might have a big hand, right? Like
okay,
I might have needed that 7 right now, right?
yeah,
Because he wouldn't re-raise right there, but I'm like, oh, still could be like aces or kings with one of the diamonds or something, right?
mm-hmm.
So then the river's like a 10 of hearts, and he checks, and this is where these polarizing bets come into play. I'm like, gonna go big,
Yeah,
gonna go big. I feel like he's probably got a big hand. And an overpair looks really good right now. You know, the 7's such a good card,
yeah,
right? Like, because now Queen Jack really isn't a thing. I'm going to check back probably Queen Jack,
right,
you know. So I'm like, ooh, he might have like aces or kings. I'm going to go big. So river, I go 600.
nice.
He goes in the tank for a long time. He's eyeballing me. I'm acting like I'm nervous, right? That feels so good. So sometimes just to have them nuts, you know, it's like, because it's so rare. And then he's like, I call. And then, like, I was like, waiting for I didn't hear, see a chip or anything. And dude was like, call it. I'm like, sweet. Show him. He's like, wow, okay, nice hand. I heard he ended up he told one of my buddies on his right later. I walked by him later. He said he had ace queen with the ace of diamonds. So
Oh wow,
I got paid by one pair, but tough spot though for him because like he's like, man, what full house is it? He knows that I would raise with jacks or queens,
Yeah.
or 3-bet.
yeah,
So it's like, what do I have? Jack 7, Queen 7, and then like I don't have the ace high flush, right?
right. And even if you have like ace 7, so you've made trips, you're not doing this with that, like with 3
Right.
diamonds on the board.
Yeah, it would have to be ace 7 with the ace of diamonds maybe on the turn. I can raise, right?
Yeah, but I
Then
mean,
he's
like,
got diamonds, so yeah.
yeah, it's wow, that's really cool.
That was a good one. So it was nice to make almost $1,000 with quads.
Yeah,
It's rare, yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, I think raising the turn, a lot of people are gonna just not. They're gonna just go, ooh, I'm just gonna call.
yeah,
Sky, right? But then the river, what do I get on the river?
yeah. If you if you just call the turn, let's say you did just call the turn, and he checks to you. Now what? I mean,
River.
yeah. So you've got a pot 384. It's 480 now.
Yeah, I can bet like 250 or something, maybe, or 300 on the river.
300 probably.
So
Yeah.
I get the 600 plus the extra 150 on the turn in a spot where I probably would have never raised before, just because I'm like, ooh, I have quads. I don't want to I don't want to push him off. But so now you can you can have bluffs. I don't know how many bluffs I can have right there because he has the hand that he has.
Right.
But yeah, or I could just be like representing a 7. That's about it.
But I think it almost looks stronger to go call bet the river because you see it so often. You see people just like, I've got the nuts, I'm just gonna call here and then go for it if he doesn't on the river. I think you're probably not getting called as often if you don't take the raise on the turn. Does that sound about right to you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So now I can find myself in a lot of situations like that where I can rep other big hands and put people in tough spots on the river when I don't have it.
Yeah.
And then when I do, same thing. It does seem like, though, most players in these games, when they are making these, I don't know if they're polarizing in the right spots enough. I don't know if I am either. But a lot of times they mostly have it. Like, it seems like.
Yep.
A greater percentage of the time at the win when someone 150% pot on the river, like they got it a lot of times, or 100% pot.
Yep.
But I've been doing it late. I'm like, okay, I need to make sure I'm doing that enough when I don't have it. Like I need to go. Like I 2x potted in one of my last vlogs a couple vlogs ago, and I didn't have it, and it didn't work. I ran into top set. But there was a wheel out there. Like, he tanked. He almost folded.
Yeah.
But one of those spots, I was like, ooh. I didn't know he had aces, of course. I thought it was like ace, king, ace, queen. The way he played was weird. He check, flop, check, turn with top set.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was a weird one because I guess at the end of the day, I was like, why did I have to? I didn't need to 2x pot it because I'm basically trying to get only pocket, like 3 aces to fold on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm doing it in the right spot. That was just more of like on the player side of it. I was like, I don't think you can call an all in right here, even with a set. Yeah. I thought he had pocket kings. I thought it might have been pocket kings. It was ace high flop and went check, right?
Yeah.
Check flop, check turn.
Yeah.
And king rip. And when he called the bet on the turn, I was like, is he getting sticky with kings? And then king hit the river. And I was like, ooh, maybe I can still get him off of it though, right? Like, because there was a wheel on board and I was in the straddle, so I was like, I just thought it looked good, believable.
Yeah.
That bet turn. But yeah, it's been working though. Like, a lot of bluffs have been getting through, and then when I get caught, I don't worry about it anymore because I'm like, I know I'm gonna pick up some bluff. Like, it's all gonna come back, you know.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
It works so often. I think like even at the higher stakes. To your point, I played 5-10, which was 5-10-20 at the series in that King's Lounge thing, just to kind of take a shot and see how it was. And that's not really my game, right? And my mentality was like, okay, these guys are going to be bluffing more. I need to be willing to bluff, catch lighter, and all that stuff. And I made several calls where I was like, okay, there's a lot of missed draws here. This makes sense. I should be calling at a high enough frequency. This is a bluff catcher, so I make the call. And I don't think I saw one bluff. I didn't pick anybody off. They were all value bets, and huge value bets where I just thought these guys have to be bluffing more frequently, but I was wrong. So to your point, even at the higher stakes, people aren't doing it as often as you would expect. So I think that's why it works so well for you, right? Like that, if you're willing to do it, most people are just like, oh, it has to be the nuts. They always have it here.
Yeah, so. You gotta take the spots when you can. When people are showing weakness, you just gotta fire. And then same thing if you have a decent read. I think my strength has always just been player, like kind of looking at the table. You can't do that as much when you get higher now because nobody's giving anything away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But like sometimes you're like, this guy is never folding, right? He's unbluffable.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Yeah.
Or like, you just got to figure that out quick. Like, who can you not bluff? Who can you probably bluff?
Yeah.
Who can you bluff every time, right?
Yeah.
And who, if they raise you just fold 2 pairs. You're just done with it. So that's kind of, I think that's what dealing has helped, is probably figure out those type of players in the lower stakes games. But
do you use that much at like a 2-3?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
you see a lot of patterns. A lot of the bet sizing is a huge one too in the lower stakes. A lot of like I said, I think I mentioned in one of my blogs. A lot of bluffs aren't really big bet bluffs. It looks like you're getting value bet by them. You're like, okay, they're value betting. They have me, but a lot of times they'll do that with a bluff because they don't want to risk too much.
Yeah.
So their bet size makes no sense. Like the pot's 200, they'll bet 40 river. That's their bluff, right?
Right.
So I can pick off a lot of those, and you just have to call those nowadays almost. But I see a lot of patterns for sure. But I do notice in the higher games when you're in a game like at the Win the other day when there's no like you were in a good game where you said you're getting 3 or 4 callers. That doesn't happen when you're in like a tough game. Usually it's like they're 3-bet or fold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Make it 20. Someone calls 20 behind. They're like 3-betting you or folding.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's how the Win was the other day where it's just a battle.
Yeah.
Like, so now you got to 4-bet or just defend, and then try to play post flop. But everybody was solid. So I'm like, I'm going to get out of here. That's something I probably need to do better. I get not stubborn, but especially when you're vlogging, you're kind of all set up. So sometimes you can wait them out too. Like if you sit in a crappy game long enough, like some of the good players are going to table change, and then some are just going to leave because the game's no good.
Yeah.
And then you might fill in with some action.
Right.
So sometimes I'll do that, kind of sit in a bad game, probably longer than I should, but it is what it is. Sometimes it's good to battle too.
I think one of the huge skills of poker players that's way overlooked because it comes from like pride and ego, I think, but we just are like, I don't want to admit that I'm not good enough for this game, so I'm going to sit in here and do battle with these guys that are better than me. And I think one of the huge skills, and you hear it a ton from the old school guys, is like, hey, if you look around at the table and you realize that even though you're talented, you're one of the worst at the table, get out of there. Like, there's no reason to stay. And
Yeah.
I know for me that I've had moments where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna cut my teeth at this game or whatever, kind of get in here and get involved, and it doesn't go very well that often. So I think recognizing, hey, I can make a lot more money at a different game that's smart. I mean,
yeah, honestly, like before I started vlogging, I think I've improved a little bit, but back in the day, I was looking at my hourly and I'm like, I'm making like the same hourly. It's not a ton of hours over like lifetime when I was recording everything, all the stats, but I was like, I'm making like 30 an hour playing 1-3, and I'm making like 25 an hour 2-5. Like, why do I even need? But now I think I'm getting, I am getting a couple more big blinds in the 2-5 than I used to, since I've been, thinking about poker and studying a little bit. And, improving there. But yeah, game selection, need to work on that and just get out of the the bad games, because if nobody's going to give any money away, there's like, what's the point? If they're all like equal skill level, or if you feel like that, then you're just trading money, paying rake in the long. So find those games where people are going to dump, and there's some cocktails and some talking. And
they're more fun anyway.
Yeah, way more fun. I don't know, sometimes when I go in the morning, I'm not in the mood to kind of talk, but or sometimes I just go get drinks just to, hey guys, I go round of straddles, round of cocktails, let's go. Just saying something, because sometimes people are just, they're ready, they want to talk, but nobody does, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I get that vibe more at South Point, that kind of happens. But I don't get to go out very much on weekends anymore, so I work, so I'm probably missing out on a lot of good games on the strip on the weekends. So
is there a point you think where the YouTube thing kind of takes over and dealing gets pushed to the side? Is that a goal long term, or?
That's what the goal is, but I don't know. It might take years the way it's looking. I mean, the YouTube income, a lot of people ask, like, how much do you make or whatever. I'm like, dude, it's not a lot, man. I'm making like $50 maybe a video. Sure. So over a year and a couple months, so we're 14 months in. I maybe made like $2,600, I think. So it's a couple buy-ins.
Right.
But I mean, you see the potential can be there, right? Like, if you can, I pretty much got the math down to what you need as a subscriber count to how much you can make with how many videos per week, how many views you need. Yeah. But with all the bloggers coming in, spreading out the views a little bit, kind of like trick shots. Yep. Kind of like a couple people had the whole pie. Now you got another couple hundred people in there. So, it can take, but I'm not trying to get like rich off of YouTube. It is fun. I enjoy the talking and making the video. What I don't like though is like recording at the table. I still feel kind of douchey getting my camera out all the time, like taking pictures and this and that, because I always wanted to be kind of low key at the table and bounce around where like as an unknown, and vlogging is the total opposite. So I agree. But for me, and just at the table, you're always taking notes and doing this. Your phone's on fire. It's it's like I hate that part of it. But when I get home, get the notes going, and then start the voiceover, that's fun. And then, putting together the video, it's kind of like a project. So you kind of enjoy the finished product.
Do you, so I share most of those sentiments with, like, I just feel, I don't want to draw attention to myself or be like, look what I'm doing, I'm so great. But the thing I struggle with the most, I used to watch people walk around and talk into their phone. And I always thought, like, man, you're missing out on this moment to try to share it with everybody else, right? And now I'm that guy that's trying to figure out how to do that, and I hate it at the same time. It's a weird dynamic to be like, I don't want to be the guy talking into my phone, but I have to if I'm going to make this vlog. I don't know. What do you think?
I still feel awkward. Like I'm not even that comfortable yet doing it. Yeah. Even after almost 3 years of like trying to do content, it's still, there's so many takes that I'm like, restart. Like, I have everything I want to say, and then it starts rolling, and you don't want to miss a beat or screw up, right? So it's I'm still not that comfortable like off the cuff like that in front of my own camera by myself. Like it takes a lot of takes. Yeah, let alone in a casino with people watching. The editing is pretty simple, and it's nice to just play. I can go play 1 6-hour session and have a 15-minute video. Yeah. Every week. Yep. I enjoy it. Really cool. Fun. Right on, man. Well, we'll wrap this thing up. Where can people find you? Where should they check out your trick shots and your poker? All right. So YouTube is Rob Stacks, and the trick shot channel is Watching Rob. So, and if you go to either channel, I have the links to each, the TikTok, the Instagram, and YouTube on either page. So,
cool.
Yeah.
And then I guess one more plug for you. You got these new shirts that are floating around, and the hoodies and everything.
The Rob Stacks. Yeah, I decided, you know what? Let's get a little logo made, do a little play on the words. That way people, because I was like, Watching Rob, what can I ever brand or make a shirt out of? No one's going to wear that.
Yeah.
And so I did like a design logo contest, and then I was like, hey, would it be cool if we like robbing people's stacks? Like, let's just see how that looks. Like, 'cause that's our goal. We go out and we want to take all the stacks, right? So
yeah.
We got my name in there, but it's also kind of like, hey, robbing stacks.
Let's go. Love it. Where do people get those if they want them?
I don't know if I have the link. Oh, I do have the link on my YouTube, like, About Me page.
Okay.
So there's just some shirts and hoodies. I'm going to get some card protectors made soon, but those are expensive. So I'm going to try to get those in bulk. And then, like, I think I'm going to take those when I play. And if you stack me, I'm going to put it in the pot.
Nice.
And then, give some out and stuff like that. So
good deal.
I always wanted to be one of those YouTubers where, like, I'm doing a giveaway. I'm like, man, how do these people always give away all this stuff? How loaded are they?
They're making at least $2,600 a year, right?
Yeah. Right. Need to be making that per video.
Right.
I don't expect that ever, but even like you said, the goal is if I can supplement the dealing, because I used to play full time, and I don't want to have to. I have a family and like real bills. It's not like I'm single. Everybody's like, oh, I'm a professional poker player. What? Are you single? Like, I guess you can be. It depends on your life situation.
Yeah.
Back in the day when my bills were $1,000 a month, I could do it.
Yeah.
But now when bills are over $4,000, you got a family. It's a little. It's a little stressful dealing such a good job too. So I kind of like the mix.
Yeah.
Both.
Yeah, I think when I set out to do this, that was kind of my goal. It's like, oh, I'm going to play cards to support my family and all that stuff, and it's going to be really fun and YouTube. And then got out there and started really running numbers and crunching it, and I was like, well, they basically have to like suffer and take a like lower standard of living for me to live out this card dream. And I'm like, what kind of terrible selfish monster am I if that's the way I'm going to live my life? So
yeah, that's kind of why I got out of poker. Honestly, for a while when my son was born, it was impossible. I was working graveyard and then trying to go play late. You're missing family time, and then I was like, I need to get on a normal lifestyle. So that's when I bought a pool business, and did that for 6 years, and we sold it. But then now my son's older, and then our daughter's 16, so it's like, oh, I can I can go out and they're fine, or I can leave the house. She can watch him or hang out. So that's kind of what got me back in, and then the content became a thing. So I'm like, man, I want to be my own. Pool business was my own boss, but I was still stuck. I'm still stuck in like a schedule, and like I can never leave in the summers.
Yeah.
So that's why I was like, man, I want to get to where like, yes, I can make a video when I want. I can play poker when I want. That's the goal,
Absolutely.
Have as much family time as you want.
Yep, that's awesome. I appreciate those priorities. They're good priorities. So.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, right on. All right, well, hey, thanks for the time. This was fun, and
man,
go check out Rob Stacks. His channel is awesome. You will not be sad that you clicked on it. And thanks for hanging out, man. Have a good one, and we'll
you too, man.
do this again sometime. All right.
All right, Sean.
See ya.
Later.